खंडमंडलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनं शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरात् गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। So today on Vijayadashmi, Navaratris are over, 9 nights of the Devi Navaratri. So I want to confine myself to the Navadurgas. I won't describe the Navadurgas, but the concept of Shakti in the Tantra and how it's linked to the 9 days that one follows certain practices and so on. Of course, the yogi follows the practices all his life, but for those who are normally involved in other activities, at least for 9 days, people prepare themselves for the final Vijaya, the final success or so. First of all, the concept of Shakti, when you say Shakti, the word meaning is energy. All kinds of Shaktis are the Vidyut Shakti, electricity. But when we refer in the Tantra, so we need to explain Tantra, we mean the Parashakti or the primeval original Shakti, the source of all other pranas that function in the system, and therefore another name given to it is Mukhya Prana. In the human structure, it's Mukhya Prana. In the outside world, it is Parashakti, which divides itself into different energies and functions in different ways. So this is Shakti. Now, we have mantra, tantra, yantra and so on. So, you know the word meanings of yantra. Yantra means a machine or that with which you can accomplish what you desire. A car is an yantra, you can drive. In the same way, in Tantra, in the science of Tantra, Tantras are those designs, pictures and blueprints with which you can achieve a certain result. If you simply draw an yantra, well, you can draw an yantra and worship the yantra. But a person who knows what it means realizes how to use it. Otherwise you don't. Like you have organic chemistry and somebody goes and writes on the board H2 and then lot of C's, carbons and so on, put lines. It's an yantra. For us it's a mystery, but you also think, oh, it must be useful and important because why is the scientist putting it on the board? But when you know what H indicates and what C indicates and how the molecules come together to form an organic entity, then you know how to put it together in the lab. So yantra basically is that which shows us how to tap that energy which pervades the universe, which is the original energy and which functions in the human system as the Mukhya Prana. Okay. Now, Tantra. This word Tantra has acquired a very bad name, unfortunately, because of the practices of the extreme Kaulamargas. So when you say Tantra, people usually think of orgies in the night, drunken orgies, Smashan Bhairav, sitting in the Smashan and doing some practices. Tantra basically means, is defined as yoga bhogayate, which means yoga through bhoga. Now this is where the whole misunderstanding happens. The ultimate bhoga or enjoyment is when the energy is awakened inside our system. The external enjoyments are manifestations of this energy in a small form. What happens is, why this maxim is used is because most human beings are, according to the classification of the Tantras, in the stage of Pashu, meaning animals. So suddenly to teach them the Jnana Marga and take them, all this is an illusion, we have to find the Sukh, it won't work. So in Tantra they have devised ways and means by which you live in this world, you enjoy this world to the best extent possible. Meanwhile, understanding that all enjoyment that comes in this world is actually coming from inside, and so ultimately turn in and find the source and fountain of all the joy that you feel, which is within, which is the Mukhya Prana, which is the Kula Kundali, which is the Shakti, which is the Devi, and so on. Now, it has disintegrated and kind of got a bad name because of, now Kavalachara therefore is the practice, the left-handed practice by which the Pashu, like us, can rise above by enjoying, seeing and then letting go. Most people cannot let go unless they enjoy something. Otherwise, in the last part of the sadhana, when you're about to let go everything, something will come in as an obstacle. You already seen it, it's gone. But the key is to let go finally, to get out of it. Unfortunately, people cannot get out of it. They get stuck with it because this is easier than that. So, in the Kaula Marga, the Pancha Makaras are prescribed. I don't want to go into the whole thing, but they're like 5 things starting with M. That's correct. They're like Matsya, Mamsa, Madhya, and so on. Now the thing is, all these have also for the Samaya Margi, or one who is practicing the right hand, which may take time but is much safer and better for us, have another meaning than what is expressed. Let's take Madhya, Madhu, liquor. Now, you all know, why do people go in the evening have a drink? Sometimes the central nervous system is paralyzed, you forget everything. In extreme cases, you even forget who is who, and end up even having terrible relationships physically also. But the reason why it happens, where everybody is fond of, is because it paralyzes the active mind for a while, so that you kind of feel expansive, become very spiritual. That is also spirit in the bottle. It becomes spiritual. Now, why was this prescribed? Because you see, normal human being cannot see the laborer who works the whole night and day, or not night, in the day, in the paddy field or somewhere else. Can he meditate? Does he know anything about nothing? So where can he forget about all that? That's why he drinks. I always say, if you introduce a prohibition policy strictly throughout the world, all these people have to go to mental homes. The other extreme is, some people go so extreme into it that they go into mental homes. So, the key principle of Tantra is balance and no extremes. So when you taste once, even smoking of or the taking of aushadas like cannabis and so on. Even Yoga Sutras have said some of the vibhutis can be caused through aushadas, aushadhanani. So the reason is that you experience it and figure out, oh, this is how it is, but there is something much more than that which is not dependent on any of these things and become independent of it. Unfortunately, people don't become independent, they get stuck because the body has a habit of addiction. And it is true that it may temporarily free you from limitations. Great poets, writers and all, sometimes painters, they are freed and then they do wonderful things. But like somebody said, is life worth living? It depends on the liver. This is the other side of it. So, why did I come into this? So, Tantra. Basically, from our point of view, from the Samaya Marga point of view, Tantra is the understanding of the activity of the Shakti in the human system and how to awaken it and enjoy and get drunk in that, not from outside sources. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a person who tried all sadhanas. There was not a sadhana that he did not try. He also tried the Kaula Marga for some time. But for him, when you offer the liquor to the goddess as a symbol, is simply if you say Madhya, he would become completely tight as an owl. There is no need to put anything inside. You know what I mean? So, because of the similarities in some way between the opening up of the mind without limitations and the taking of chemicals of that, this has happened. But the true seeker has to get over it. Well, if you don't want to touch it at all, that's even better. Samaya Margins don't even touch it because they know how to get drunk inside, and that drunkenness is better than this drunkenness. It opens your mind to greater horizons. So, it deals with Shakti. So, Yantra, Tantra, Mantra. The mantra is the science of utilizing your mana, your mind, as an yantra. Mana yantra is mantra. So, there are some sounds, it's a science of sound actually. Apart from the words and the meanings, is also, why am I looking only this side? I think all the Shaktis are here. Sorry. The description of a mantra, the lines of a mantra, the lyrics of a mantra, the words of a mantra, they are also useful. But the most important thing in a mantra is the sound. The sound has a certain effect. Even if you don't know the meaning of the mantra, if you are doing it properly, the proper sound, it does have an effect. If you know both, then it is even better. So, Tantra, Yantra, Mantra. Now, there are various textbooks on these subjects which we can't go into completely now. There are the Tantras, Kularnava Tantra, Mahanirvana Tantra and so on. Now, there is a borderline, a combination of both the practice of yoga and the practice of Tantra. These are called the Yoga Tantras. What the Tantrics do through practice of Bijaksharas and meditation, yoga tries to accomplish through practice. But it's also Tantra because there also words are used, sounds are used, Bijaksharas are used, but also physical practices are used to awaken the energy in us. A perfect example is the Satchakra Nirupana. which author Avalon translated as the serpent power. So for the yogi, for instance, who does not touch Tantra as a major part of his progress, there is still the practice of Tantra because he is dealing with the energy called Kundalini. The moment he fixes his attention on the energy, the Parashakti, which is in the human being, resting in the Mooladhara, automatically the yogi is also doing Tantra. Mooladhara is an yantra. Moola Adhara, it is the root foundation from which all other practices start. Only thing here, you use your breath and you use your breath as a sacrifice. All the yajnas are performed in the Manipura, the fire, the inner fire of the Manipura. So they are called, those texts are called the Yoga Tantras. According to me, in the modern age, as we are now, Yoga Tantra is better than pure Tantra or pure Yoga. And I say pure Yoga, just only the practices of asanas and so on. I think there is a judicial combination of both would be very useful, the Tantra and the Yoga. So Yoga Tantras. Now, what is the yogi trying to do? What is the Tantri trying to do? Not the Tantri in the temple, trying to do. See, this universal energy is usually residing in all human beings, not usually, always residing in all human beings in the Mooladhara. Mooladhara is the lowest center. Why I am saying this? Because in Navratri we are dealing with Shakti and the different variations of Shakti, of Sri Vidya, of the Devi, Tripura Sundari, Rajarajeshwari. Who is this lady? So she resides according to the Saundari Lahiri, turned 3.5 times like a coil, like a snake in the Mooladhara. There is no snake there, don't worry. In the Mooladhara, there is a square with 4 petals. You see, this is how, what is a Yajna Kunda? How do you make a, you have a square first and then you have other things. So here there is a square and there are 4 petals, golden in color. Oblations are poured. What oblations? The breath is poured into it and the fire lights up. So the energy is there. Now for most human beings, after food and shelter, what is the most powerful feeling? Sorry about the young people sitting here, some 2 young people, but after food and shelter, what is the most powerful energy that drives one along? What is the drive? Sexual energy. Now, where does it originate for the human being? At the Mooladhara, at the bottom of the spine, in front. This is the most powerful energy. Apart from it being part of Shingara, dance and music and everything, need not be physical. It's that energy which comes from the Mooladhara. It's also the creative energy. Finally, after all the preliminaries, what happens in an act, physical act, is that there is an ecstasy. And in that ecstasy, for a few little second, you have even lost your identity. You don't even know who you are or what is happening or who is there. There is only ecstasy. What do you call that word for that? In human terms, there is an orgasm. And then what happens generally, biologically, what happens after an orgasm? A sperm goes into the womb, in the egg, and a new person is created. Imagine, nothing is happening here except ecstasy, orgasm, enjoyment, and it starts from Muladhara. So understand where the energy is resting when it is awakened. And from there, it turns or makes or creates a new entity altogether. Genetically sharing, of course, but a new entity. Walking, talking, speaking entity. Now here, now one entity is sitting here, so many are sitting. Where does it come from? There. What is the source? The ecstasy, the orgasm. And what is the biological thing? The Havan Kund receives the oblations. Oblations are all right. If there is no Havan Kund, what is the use of the oblation? So Shakti is very important. That is the feminine aspect, that which receives, sustains. Which man is carrying a child 10 months in the... Who is sustaining it? Shakti. These are all different roles of Shakti. And out of that a child is born. This is biological creativity. So this Parashakti, after creating this human being fully, a new child is born, it becomes a complete human being. Its function is over temporarily. So what does it do? It goes and settles down in the Muladhara. And there it is, doing only the act of creativity and physical creation. For the yogi or tantric, it's this essence from where the spiritual creativity can be tapped. The same orgasm that is felt down is felt 1,000 or million times more as the energy is made to go to the higher centers. Here it is only in one center, as it is raised. The ecstasy and the orgasmic ecstasy felt, when this energy has reached the top of, through the spine, through the Sushumna, into the Sahasrara, has been celebrated even by a great sannyasin like Adi Shankara in the Saundarya Lahari. The ecstasy of beauty, Saundarya Lahari. So, the Yoga Tantras, the act is to turn the energy in the other direction. For most people it flows only in one direction. Okay, fine, human beings. But the yogi turns it around and it goes in a different direction altogether. But the Shaktas, the Tantras say that you can do that even without shunning everything, by living in this world, enjoying things, understanding that the enjoyment is actually inside and not outside, carrying on with life. The other path is, oh, shun everything and go and sit somewhere. Doesn't work for most people. So you can wear good clothes, you can have good food, you not overdo anything, and find out that the source and center of enjoyment is actually the energy called Shakti, which can be aroused and taken to the Sahasrara. All stages through which the Shakti passes are the 9 nights, and finally Dashami, it is in the Sahasrara. There are only 7 chakras including the Sahasrara, but 9 is described as a number which is a number of energy which cannot be destroyed or created. Numerologically, 9 is the only number. You multiply it with anything, make it as big as possible, then you add the numbers, you will still get only 9. Because it is a symbol of energy which is always there. Nobody can destroy it, nobody can create it, self-created. Now, there are many texts which deal with this, with these energies and there are different margas, different paths. There is, of course, the left hand, there is also the Samaya Marga. Now, anyone who wants to understand this in depth I would suggest that they go through the Saundarya Lahari with a good, reasonable translation and try to explore. Uh, each chakra has its own descriptions. As the energy gets aroused in each center, first is to take it from bottom up, and when it gets, the lotus petals bloom, and each has its own description, and each has its own sound, and each has its own color, and each has its own smell. So all the sensory organs are covered in each center, like the Muladhara. The Kularnava Tantra describes the Muladhara with the Bijakshara, Lang Bijam Dharning Dhyayat Chadusrang Supitabham Sugandham Sarnavarnatvam Arogyam Dehalakya. What is the result? Arogya and Dehalakya. Then the Chandrakala of the crescent is described. Vang Vijam Varning Jayat Ardha Chandram Shashi Prabham Sidhu Pipasam Sahishnudam Jalamadheshu Majjanam. It's not walking on water. Jalamadheshu Majjanam means being able to travel outside your body. That's what it means. And it's here in the Swadhisthana, self-center. Swa Adhisthana. So there are many such things involved. What I'm trying to say is the Shakti here is most important, because that Shivam cannot be touched without the activation of the Shakti. Without the Havan Kund, no Homa can be done physically. Also, even in this way, the Shakti is very important for us. Now the Saundarya Lahari, the very first verse is trying to say this. When Adi Shankara wrote the Saundarya Lahari, he had, I've seen many times, the experience of the energies, because people associate Shankara only with Advaita, Vedanta and so on, but he also wrote the Saundarya Lahari. There is some controversy, but I think it's Bankam. Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shaktaha Prabhavitam Na Chedevam Devo Na Khalu Kushalaha Spanditumapi Atastvam Aradhyam Harihara Virinjadi Viravi Pranantum Stotum Vakatamakrita Punyaha Prabhavati. This is how it starts, which means without Shakti, Shiva has no function to perform. He is just in the original scheme of things, when everything is in Akasha, everything is in balance. That's the state of Shivam. Past in the Vaishnava Sampradaya is called Ananta Sayana. So Shiva is also in some kind of Sayana. It's only when Shakti is awakened that when the Damaru is out. So the Saundarya Lahari is saying, without this power of Shakti, Shiva himself cannot do anything. Then how can anything else happen in this world without you? And who am I who is not even qualified to praise you? Atastvam aradhyam harihara virin pranantum stotum kathamakridha punya. What punya have I done to call upon you? So, whenever a person with deep devotion and knowing how to operate the energies, how to love the energy enough to make her dance and go up the path to the Sahasrara, sits down and puts his attention on that, then what happens? The rejuvenation takes place, the transference of a human into a divine being begins. Once it is awakened, even though physically you are human, you are no longer just ordinary. There is something else going on inside, always, constantly. Now for that, two things are required. One is the bhava of being a servant of everything has to evolve. Only a servant becomes a lord. Dasa. So, the Devi is referred by many names in the Saundarya Lahari. And one of them, of course, Lalita is there in Lalita Sahasranama, is Bhavani. So, therefore, the Saundarya Lahari also says, Bhavani Tvamdase Mai Vitara Drishtim Sa Karuna, just Mai Vitara Drishtim Sa Karuna. Then, Kathayati Bhavani Tvamiti Sadaiva Tvam Tasmai Dishasi Nijasa Yujya Padavim Mukunda Brahmendra Sputamakutanira Ajitapadam. That means, who am I, what am I to bow down before you like a such slave? In the moment I say Tvam, Bhavani Tvam, I don't even complete the sentence. Your gracious eyes descend on me and I become complete. And you, who use Hari, Hara, Brahma, everyone as a footstool. Hari Hara Virinja Dipiravi. Pranantam Stotum Kathamakrita Punya Prabhavati. What Punya have we done? So, that is one description. And afterwards, when the energy has risen, or the chant for arousing the energy, anyone who is now doing sadhana and so on, I would not advise you to go into the understanding of the complete Tantra and so on, not required. If you do your Kriya and your meditation, do the Chakra Dharana where the energy resides and take it up, and choose a few slokas from the Saundarya Lahari and chant while you do the practice. It is more than enough. Main thing is Dasa Bhava, Bhakti, the understanding that what you are attempting is a tremendous task. It's not a simple thing. When that happens, then if you become perfect in that practice and you don't commit mistakes which take you away from the path, then only you have the authority to say, as in the Saundarya Lahari Shankara says, Konat Kanji Rama Karikalabha Kumbhas Tananata Parikshina Madhye Parinata Sarachandra Vadanam Dhanurbanan Pasham Srinamavi Dadhana Karatalai Purasta Rastam Napuramatitur Aho Purushika. Aho Purushika is a direct challenge. Come here, O Purushika. Which Purushika? With the face like the Chandra, Ardha Chandram, Shashi Prabham, the one who is Konatka with all the anklets in the waist and the legs and so on, with the bow of the Kamarupa, arrow of flowers, and the Karatale which you use to goad the cow, for instance. If with all this, please present yourself before me. It's not even please. Aho Purushika means come on Purushika, what are you doing? Like saying, asking Narasimha, Aho Bila, like that. Come, O cat. So, this is the thing. Now, since we are on the subject, people always keep talking, Sri Vidya, Sri Vidya. Now, Sri Vidya has its ritualistic aspects. Sri Vidya also has its inner aspects. For us, the inner aspects are more important than the external aspects. If you do Sri Chakra Puja, that's fine. It's wonderful. It fixes your attention on the yantra. But the Meru is actually a three-dimensional Sri Chakra, with the Mooladhara as the base and the tip of the last triangle being where the Bindu reaches the Sahasrara. So from here, it flows like this, the energy. From here, when you gather, it goes like this, in a pyramidical structure. Not that you should sit inside a pyramid and meditate, that's not what. So, So there are different ways. Now Sri, what is Sri Vidya? I mean, Vidya is knowledge, understanding. Sri is of the Supreme energy is Sri. Srimati's short form is Sri. Sri is also Sri, Supreme Being. So basically it's a combination of certain Bijaksharas which are chanted with a certain time given to it, matras, in the centers of the psycho-spinal system of the yogi. They're sounds. Basically, they are bija aksharas. There is no particular meaning attached to them. They are not lyrics. They are sounds, and the sounds are powerful. So, if you know how to chant those sounds, and chant at what time span that you have to chant, and so on, and how each are related to each other in different ways, then you have mastered the Sri Vidya. Only when the energy or Shakti reaches the Sahasrara can you say, I have now mastered the Sri Vidya. And the gateway to Sri Vidya is the Bala Tripura Sundari, the 3 Bijakshara mantra. Yes, you can chant it and chant it till you're ready for the Sri Vidya. There's no point in taking Sri Vidya for 2,000 bucks. It doesn't work that way. Sri Vidya is the Vidya that is given by Sri to you through somebody. So there are different combinations of the Bijaksharas, and depending on the sounds. Now the funny thing is, not funny thing, strange thing, that Shankaracharya put all the Bijaksharas together in the Saundari Lahiri, if you know where to open and look. Very clever of him. You see all the Bijaksharas, but then still you need an instruction on what is suitable for you and how to do it. So if there is a Sri Vidya, all Sri Vidya mantras, all combinations have 15 letters which are called Panchadashaksharis. 15 sounds, 15 Bijaksharas. When you add the Shreem to it, it becomes Shodashakshari, 16 letters. Shreem is to be added. Not Shriyam, Shreem to be added. So when you start chanting, there are different combinations, and which chakra, which center it has to be fixed, what is the time between each Bijakshara, and what is the kind of mantra given to you. These are important things. Basically, it's split into Kadi Vidya and Hadi Vidya. Kadi Vidya is that Sri Vidya which starts with the Bijakshara Ka, and Hadi Vidya is that which starts with the Bijakshara Ha. Ha. And there are several combinations of these. Generally, Hadi Vidya, Kadi Vidya. Then there are different combinations, and they all have different names in Tantra. There is Lopa Mudra, there is Agastya, there is Durvasa, there is and so on. So one doesn't have to go into detail. What you have to remember is, even if you from somewhere or Saundari Lahiri learn this Bijaksharas, please go to a teacher who knows for you which combination is best. You for Lopa Mudra or Agastya or Manmata. For me, I have been given Manmata. Now this Manmata combination is very dangerous in one way in this world, because everybody will get attracted to you, but you can't help it. Babaji said, this is your mantra, so I am doing it, not to attract, okay. So, there are different combinations of the Sri Vidya. Did I leave out anything else of Shakti here? Now, from the Tantric point of view, there are Dasha Mahavidyas. The energy has generally been described and split into Dasha Mahavidyas. In the Dasha Mahavidyas, it's a different manifestations of Shakti. There are what are called Ghora Devtas and there are also Shanta Devtas. But it so happens that in the Dasha Mahavidya, the first Vidya is Bhadrakali. And then Durga, Smashana Durga and so on. And then you come to Shanta Durga, then you come to Rajarajeshwari, Tripura Shanta Devta and so on and so forth. But it starts with Bhadrakali. Only difficulty is, unless you want to cut your head and put it along with the garland that's already hanging there, don't touch. Be very careful. People worship, you can worship. People say you shouldn't worship Kali. There is no such thing. Kali is a symbol of the whole creation. It is a reality. Tongue out, blood dripping, this is reality. Everywhere you see it happening. Don't run away from it. So, the ultimate sacrifice is to add your head, your ego. It is one of the heads that are Mundamala on her neck. Mundamala Vibhushitam. So, one of the mundas has to go, not Punjabi mundas, I mean, have to go there. So, so this is in a nutshell the meaning of the worship of Shakti, which we are doing for 9 days. We have reached the Dashami today. So while you do your pujas and fix your attention and all that, in the practice of Tantra, Aishwarya is allowed. It's not cut off. It's not meant only for sannyasins. It's meant for everybody. In fact, what has happened with the misunderstanding is that there are certain forms of Tantra which Sri Vidya, which can be practiced also with a partner. But the problem is the yogi should learn how to withdraw himself at the last moment, which is very difficult. It's better not to tread that path. You usually end up falling in. But since that looks very attractive, it becomes the easiest thing. Everybody's, it doesn't matter. So, to sum up, the Shakti that you worship for 9 days as Navaratri, Ratras, resides in your body, inside your system, in your psychophysical system, in the Mooladhara as the Tripura Sundari, Rajarajeshwari. And the whole of the practice of Tantra is to win over this Devi and take her carefully. You can't fight with her. Take her carefully to the Sahasrara, where she meets her Lord, who is always sitting. When this happens, then the ecstasy of Saundarya happens, and the yogi is no longer an ordinary human. This is the whole sense. But in India, everything is put into ordinary terms so that everybody can practice in some way or the other. So if you don't know the depth of this, you can also do your puja, you can do a Navaratri puja, offer flowers. See, so it's meant for an entire gamut of emotions and indulgences for human beings. But this is the ultimate. So you can start anywhere, but finally remember that the ultimate is that. And it is the unity of Shakti and Shiva that produces all the Ashtasiddhis and everything that's around. So anyone who is attempting to procure Siddhis is neglecting the mainstream. Is also to be remembered. And also, as far as possible, don't take Manmata Sri Vidya. So, thank you very much. Once more, I'll chant and then stop. Konatkanchi Rama Karikala Bhakumbhastananata Parikshina Madhye Parinata Sarachandra Vadanam Dhanurbanan Pasham Srinamabhidadhana Karatalai Purastadastam Napuramati Turaho Purushika. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I hope the Purushika has come everywhere.